Town officials issue a drinking water advisory. To find out more, Channel 18's Sarah Colvin chats with DPW Director Dan Santos today on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, May 25th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mannel.
So the big news is the drinking water health advisory that was issued yesterday about the Hyannis public drinking water system. What's this all about?
Well, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, who's really in charge of regulating our drinking water, and that comes down through the State Department of Environmental Protection, but they are always looking at drinking water contaminants and how they affect public health. And so because of that, they have standards for different chemicals in drinking water, and many of which you're familiar with, like lead,
sure,
things like that. But they're always looking at emerging contaminants, and that's a whole category of things that are from the last few decades that they're seeing may have some health impacts by being in drinking water. And so occasionally they issue what are called health advisories. And so they're not standards that we have to meet from a regulatory standpoint, but they're guidelines to help consumers understand that these chemicals that might be in their water could have a potential health impact, and generally it's over a lifetime of use. So for this particular issue, it's perfluorinated compounds, and these come from a variety of things throughout our culture. They're in food packaging, they're in cookware, they're in fire-resistant and fire retardants for clothing, they're in carpeting, they're used in firefighter training foam or firefighting foams that are used both on actual fires and in training. And that's really the cause of the significant issue we have here with these compounds is the county firefighter training area where they use these for decades.
Sure.
And it was just done on the ground, and it goes down into our groundwater with the sandy soils we have. So this health advisory has it's a lifetime consumption of this water. So the way they look at that is if you consume 2 liters of water a day for 70 years, you increase your risk of getting certain diseases by a certain percentage. Now that's not really the issue here because that's, again, it's a lifetime of consumption.
Certainly.
But there's a short-term exposure which they're concerned about, and that's for pregnant women, nursing mothers, and infants. They shouldn't drink the water because apparently it's shown there is some impact to a developing fetus or infants from having this in the water. So that's why we've put out this public notification because one of our wells had exceedances of the health advisory. Now you may recall this came up a year ago with the same contaminants, and we put 2 carbon treatment systems on 2 wells. We didn't put it on this 3rd well because it wasn't exceeding the health advisory at the time. What really happened was last Thursday, the EPA changed the health advisory and lowered the number. So now that 3rd well was exceeding the standard, and so we took that offline, so we're not putting that water in our system any longer. And we're now immediately working to get another carbon system on that well. And so out of abundance of caution, we have sampled all of our wells and parts of our distribution system so we can assure our consumers that this material isn't still in the system from what was put in before we turned the well off. My expectation is that we won't find it there, but until we're sure from the sampling, we're going to have this health advisory and notification in effect, recommend that population not drink the water. And if others are concerned, we've made water available for the pregnant women and mothers as well as anyone who's really concerned about their own health. We have bottled water available at the Hyannis Water Division office, which is at 47 Old Yarmouth Road in Hyannis, which is over across from Robies. And,
Okay.
people often refer to it as Willow Street. But,
Yes, Yarmouth Road.
and right there, that intersection, that's where the office is. And we'll have that available while this health advisory is in effect.
Great. Now, I think that, the important thing I think for people to realize is that nothing's really changed except for the EPA standards at this point.
Yes, that's correct. They lowered the standard, which caused us to take this action. And out of caution, we did it immediately, just like we did last time. Take the wells offline. We're not putting that water into the system. We'll get it treated and a system in place to remove it before it comes back online.
Absolutely. And I think also something that's important is I think that when we deal with kind of bacterial issues in the water, folks tend to boil the water to make it safer, but that is not recommended in this case.
Correct. And that's oftentimes water issues are from bacteria in the water, E. coli, things like that. And you can boil that and it kills the bacteria and the water's safe to drink. In this case, these aren't bacteria, they're chemicals, and boiling the water does not reduce them. In fact, it concentrates them because you have less water. You boil off some water, you now have a more concentrated contaminant. So that is very important. And another aspect of this in providing water to our customers, and this again affects Hyannis Port and West Hyannis Port, the Hyannis water system. Last night, the town of Yarmouth voted to extend an agreement we have for an interconnection where we buy water from them. They have a water system that does not have any of these contaminants in it, and so we supplement our water as necessary with this arrangement. So that's just in case.
Exactly. And so, as you said, all of the water has been tested, or we're awaiting those results. When are we anticipating those results will be ready?
Probably a week from tomorrow. Next Thursday is what we're targeting right now. It takes about a week turnaround for the analysis and then doing the reporting.
Sure. And I think we're really talking about trace amounts of these chemicals. I think that as you know, we talked about the EPA standards. Before it was 0.20 parts per billion. Now it's 0.07 parts per billion, which to me seems like a very, very small amount.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's almost not measurable. 20 years ago, you wouldn't be able to measure this level of contaminant. So technology has improved, and it's good that it does. So because we know from the health studies that are done, and the EPA does an enormous amount of work with epidemiological studies and research to really understand the things that are in our water and how it might affect our health.
Absolutely. And it really makes me think, too, about, especially here on Cape Cod with our single source aquifer, with our sandy soil, how quickly these chemicals can get into the water. And I know folks are encouraged to not flush prescription drugs down the toilet, or, think about the chemicals that you use washing your clothes, the chemicals that are used to treat your clothes and things like that. So I almost think that this also serves as a reminder that we should really think about what we are putting down the drain and how quickly it can get into our water system.
Well, that's a good point. And another factor of this is when they look at the studies and the health impacts of, in particular, these chemicals, the fluoro. I'm losing it.
I'm not even going to try to say it.
The PFCs.
PFCs.
They only 20% of the impact to health is from water. The rest of the impact is from the chemicals that are in those things I mentioned that are throughout our life.
Right.
And it's actually a lot easier to control what's in the water because we can identify it and stop it.
True.
But things that are in clothing and in carpeting and in cookware, it's much more difficult to find and remove that from people's lives.
Interesting. Good point. Well, Dan, I thank you so much. And if folks have questions, what's the best way for them to get answers to those questions?
Well, if they have basic questions about getting water and what's going on, they can call the Hyannis water system there and talk to Hans Kaisers, the division supervisor. They can call myself at the Department of Public Works, or if they have specific health questions, they can either call their physician or the Mass Department of Public Health or the Department of Environmental Protection, and we put those numbers in the information we put on the website, so you can go there and get the numbers and hopefully with one of those parties get any of your questions answered.
Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we'll have our community profile segment, we'll have our transit segment, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.